So when we talk about these events after the 3-shot spot in Daly Plaza, we got to go to our first subtopic, which is events at the Texas School Book Depository. What happened at the Texas School Book Depository after those shots were fired? Well, just within minutes of the shots being fired, police surrounded the Texas School Book Depository. Why would they do that, Lauren? Why would they surround the Texas School Book Depository? Absolutely, that's where they thought the shots came from. So when we get into conspiracy theorists and such not, right away, that's what they did. They surrounded that building because that's where they thought the shots came from. Well, on the 6th floor of the depository, Dallas Deputy Sheriff Luke Mooney discovered a sniper's post at a window on the southeast corner of the depository. So on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, Dallas Deputy Sheriff Luke Mooney, who was searching the depository, discovered a sniper's post at a window on the southeast corner of the depository. How would he know that was a sniper's post, do you think? What would make him think that? Right, there were boxes. Remember, this is the Texas School Book Depository. They're filling textbook orders for schools in the area. And there's boxes stacked up in that southeast corner, and it looked like it provided a rest for a rifle the way they were stacked up. Okay? There was a box set that the guy sat on, and then there were boxes stacked up right through the window towards where the president was shot. Now it's kind of interesting because sitting on top of one of the cartons that was used for the rifle rest was a half-eaten piece of chicken. This guy is eating chicken while he's assassinating the president. Okay, a half-eaten piece of chicken is on one of the boxes. Okay, now what time was this? Lunchtime, so to speak. I mean, it's just kind of an interesting scenario. Now, from the sniper's post to where Kennedy was shot on Elm Street was 88 yards. Okay, if you guys are hunters, that would be a pretty nice shot. If you had a nice 5 or 6 point white-tailed buck 88 yards from you, you'd be pretty happy. You'd think that was all right, right? Pretty close. 88 yards. Well, you know what else Sheriff Mooney found by those boxes that provided the rifle rest? Cartridges. No gun, cartridges. He found 3 spent shell casings. And here are not those, obviously, but this is what they look right here. 3 spent shell casings. That's the exact type of model there. We'll talk about that in a bit. Found them on the floor. Well, at 12:58 p.m., and this is a very important name you remember because we'll be talking about this guy for a long time, Dallas Police Captain John Will Fritz arrived at the steps of the Texas School Book Depository. 12:58 p.m., Dallas Police Captain John Will Fritz arrives at the steps of the Texas School Book Depository. Deputy Sheriff Mooney hangs his head out the window of the 6th floor museum or 6th floor depository, and he signals to Captain Fritz and Dallas County Sheriff Bill Decker. Where had Bill Decker been during the assassination? In the lead car. He wasn't driving because Jesse Curry was, but he was in the lead car. So he had made his way back. So at 12:58 p.m., Dallas Police Captain John Will Fritz arrived at the steps of the Texas School Book Depository, and Deputy Sheriff Mooney, who had found the sniper's nest and the 3 spent cartridges, hung his head out the 6th floor window and signaled to Captain Fritz and Dallas County Sheriff Bill Decker. And he advised the 2 men that he had located the area in which the shots were fired. Basically, he leads his head out the window and tells them hey, up here, this is where the shots were fired. Well, at 1:22 p.m., here's the sniper's nest out the window. Clear across the room of the 6th floor, police officer Eugene Boone finds what? What's he find? The rifle. Clear across the room. So whoever shot the president left the spent shell casings at the sniper's post and carried the weapon across the room and dropped it. Okay? Now you have a handout, the first one I gave you that was behind your ID sheet today. And that rifle that was found was an Italian rifle, 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano. And it was a rifle that was used pretty proficiently in World War II. It was a leftover from World War II. So, at 1:22 p.m. across the room of the 6th floor, police officer Eugene Boone finds a rifle. It's an Italian-made 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano. It was a rifle that was used in World War II, pretty common in the European theater of World War II. After the rifle was found, another police officer by the name of J.C. Day, J.C. Day, was summoned to the 6th floor. So as soon as the rifle was found, police officer J.C. Day was summoned to come to the 6th floor. And when he got to the 6th floor, these are the 3 things he did concerning that rifle they found. So as soon as the rifle was found by Eugene Boone, they summoned J.C. Day, a police officer, up to the 6th floor. He arrives at the 6th floor, and this is what he does with the rifle. First thing he does is what, do you think? First thing he does with the rifle. Takes a picture of it. Very good, Caitlin. He takes a picture of it. Photographs the rifle. What might be the next thing you would do with the rifle if you guys are interested in rifles or gals? What would you look at next? Well, look at your handout. What's on your handout? What's that? What's on your handout? Serial number. He noted the serial number on the rifle. Every rifle has one, which was C-22766. I believe that's on your handout, is it not? So he noted the serial number. Now, this is going to seem odd to you, but it was standard procedure of the day for marking evidence. How did he mark it in as evidence? So they find the rifle, they bring up J.C. Day, he photographs it, he looks at the serial number and notes it, and then he does what to mark the evidence? Scratched his name on the stock. So they knew that he was the guy that verified that was the rifle that was found on the 6th floor. That's kind of a primitive way to do it now. You wouldn't do that now, but that's what they did then. He actually carved his name, scratched his name, not carved, well, scratched it on the stock, which was standard police procedure for marking evidence at the time. Okay, now let's be a police officer at this point. So you found the sniper's nest, you found the spent shells, you found the rifle. So you know that somebody in the Texas School Book Depository shot the president, right? What's that? Absolutely. That's exactly right. The next thing they did is they took an inventory or attendance of all the employees to make sure they were still there. Because naturally, if you shot somebody, what probably would you do? Leave, okay? So, the Dallas Police takes an inventory of employees that were currently working at the Texas School Book Depository. They complete their count, and one is missing. And his name is Lee Harvey Oswald. So after the police complete their count on the employees that are working in the Texas School Book Depository, they find out just one employee is gone. His name, Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, this was kind of a weird deal. There was an eyewitness that actually gave the police department a description of the shooter. And he was on the ground and looked up during the shots and actually gave the police a description of the man he saw firing the weapon. And that eyewitness's name was Howard Brennan. And we'll come back to him later. You got to remember that name, because in our next material we'll come back to him. Because they're going to ask him to do what, do you think? Identify this guy if they catch him. So the police actually get a description of the shooter from the 6th floor because eyewitness Howard Brennan claims he saw a man on the 6th floor of the depository fire the 3rd shot. So obviously you heard the first 2, looked up to where he thought they were fired from, and actually saw the person take the 3rd shot. Howard Brennan. We'll get back to him later. They estimated that he was probably 107 feet from where Oswald was firing. From where he was standing to the 6th floor, they figured was about 107 feet. Could you see somebody pretty good at 107 feet? That's about 35 or 40 yards. I think you could. If I saw, I don't know if I know Michaela, but if I saw somebody I didn't know down by Mr. Riedel's room, I'll bet I could give a pretty good description of that person if I had to. It's not that far, okay? Now, what do you think they did with Brennan's description that he gave police? What'd they do with it? Not yet. What's that? Well, they didn't. Well, not yet. You'd think not yet, because they only know he's missing. They relayed that information to all police units in the area, right? They gave a description. Be on the lookout for a guy, 5'11", about 145 pounds, Caucasian, approximately 25 years old, whatever they do. So they sent that to all the police in the area. Okay? Now, you think about this. People criticize the Dallas Police Department for kind of bungling this up. But I want to tell you the 6 things they had within 1 hour of those shots being fired. Here are the 6 pieces of evidence, so to speak, that the Dallas Police Department had. I thought it was absolutely remarkable how well they did in an hour. So as a result of the investigation so far, which was within 60 minutes of the assassination, the Dallas Police Department had accumulated the following. Help me out. Tell me, Olivia, what's one thing they know? What they found? They found the gun. They had the gun within an hour. They had the rifle used in the shooting. Pete, what else did they have? They had 3 spent shells. Absolutely, 3 spent shells. What else did they have? What? They had the sniper's post. They knew where he shot from. Jareth?
Their primary suspect.
They had a description. They didn't have a suspect. They had a description of the suspect. And they also had with the description the what? Of the missing employee. Name. Okay, so they had found the sniper's post. They had found 3 spent shells. They found the rifle used in the shooting. They had a description of the suspect, and they had the name of the suspect. And you know what else they found? Up on the 6th floor, they found a brown paper. They found a big brown paper, wrapping paper, with gun oil on it. They found wrapping paper, like meat. Butchers use kind of white paper now, but it was brown wrapping paper, and it had gun oil on it. Now, what does that mean? What are they thinking there? That's what he wrapped it up in to bring it in. He didn't walk in with the rifle, and that's a whole nother story that we're going to get to later. But they found brown paper with gun oil on it, assuming that's what it was wrapped in to bring it into the depository. Okay, keep those in mind. So really, they had 6 pretty big pieces of evidence. Now, the next subtopic's pretty big. The route of Lee Harvey Oswald after the shooting. Where did he go? Where did Lee Harvey Oswald go when he left the Texas School Book Depository after he shot the president. Where did he go? The route of Lee Harvey Oswald after the shooting. Now we got to back up in time a little bit again because things are happening. So let's go back to 12:31 p.m. 1 minute after the shots were fired. 12:31 p.m. A police officer by the name of Marion Baker ran into the Texas School Book Depository with this pistol drawn. Why? Because he thought the shots were fired from there. Okay? So 1 minute after the shots were fired, Dallas police officer Marion Baker ran into the Texas School Book Depository with his pistol drawn. Who was he? He was one of the motorcycle policemen in the motorcade. He wasn't James Chaney, he wasn't Bobby Hargis, but there were a lot of police officers on motorcycles during the parade, and he was one of those motorcycle cops. Now, as soon as he got into the depository with his pistol drawn, he ran into a guy. He ran into a guy by the name of Roy Truly, who is the building superintendent, which tells you what? He was the boss. He's the boss of all the employees. He's the man running the Texas School Book Depository. So as soon as Marion Baker gets into the Texas School Book Depository with his gun drawn, he runs into building superintendent Roy Truly. Well, where was Baker going to go? To the direction of the shots, which was where? 6th floor. So he gets Truly, and they head for the elevator. Well, the elevator is taking too much time, and he didn't want to wait for the elevator, so Officer Baker ran up the stairs, and Truly followed him, trying to get to the upper floors of the depository where he thought the shots came from. Now, this has happened kind of at the same time when they're finding the shells and finding the rifle and all that. But he was really kind of the first one on the scene. Okay? Well, when they ran from the 1st floor to the 2nd floor, they saw a man in a room through a glass door. So they were going up the stairs, and they stopped and kind of look, and there was a man standing in a room on the 2nd floor. It was the lunchroom where people went and ate lunch at noon. Well, as Baker and Truly are running up the stairs and past this lunchroom, and they look through the window, they see a person in there. And Baker confronts the man, and he asks Superintendent Truly, "Do you know this man? Does he work here?" And Truly answered, "Yes, he works for me." So as they're running up to the 6th floor, they get to the 2nd floor, they look, just kind of glance in the lunchroom. It's an open window door. They see a guy in there. Baker goes in there, confronts this guy, and he says to Truly, "Do you know this man? Does he work here?" And Truly says, "Yes, he works for me." Well, okay, Officer Baker and Superintendent Truly leave the man, continue up the stairs. Guess who the man was? Lee Harvey Oswald. He had made his way down and was in the lunchroom on the 2nd floor. What do you think he was waiting for?
When they head up the stairs.
Somebody to get out, right? Okay, so they had their guy right there, but didn't know it. Well, it was at 12:35 p.m., 5 minutes after the shooting, when the Dallas Police Department made the decision to do what before they took the inventory? Lock her down. So we're kind of going back and forth to tell the story, but at 12:35, 5 minutes after the shots were fired, they locked down the school depository because now police are going to take an inventory of those employees. Well, that's going to be too late because at 12:33, Oswald walked out the front door of the Texas School Book Depository before they locked it down. Made the shots, got down to 2nd, those guys went past him, out the door he went. 12:33. So when they took roll, he was gone because they didn't take roll till after 12:35. Does that make sense? Well, what he did is Oswald, and I'll show you this a little more detail later. Oswald exited out the front door. Look at me. He goes out the front door and he immediately takes a left and he crosses Houston Street. Remember the street that they made the turn on? So he walks out the front door and crosses Houston Street, starts walking, and he walks 7 blocks. So he walks out the front of the building, takes a left, crosses Houston Street, and walks 7 blocks. And he gets to the corner of Elm and Murphy Street. Remember, now kind of look at me here. He walks out the front, Elm Street's right here. So when he crosses Houston, he's walking up Elm Street, opposite of where the president was shot, and he stops 7 blocks later at the corner of Elm and Murphy Street. That's at 12:40 p.m. These blocks, if you go to Dallas, they're not like ours. 7 blocks would be probably 14 of ours, you know what I mean? Well, at 12:40, he gets on a city bus at Elm and Murphy. Goes to the intersection of Elm and Murphy, and he gets on a city bus. How do we know that? What? Close. That was according to who? The bus driver Cecil McWaters. He's on. You can see a picture of him on your next handout. So at Elm and Murphy at 12:40 p.m., Oswald boards a city bus according to the bus driver Cecil McWaters. He didn't have a ticket to get on the bus, and it wasn't a regular bus stop. He just hailed down the bus and wanted on. Knocked on the door, entered the bus, paid his fare, sat down like anybody else. Do you think the bus was going very fast? Going very far anywhere?